Sometimes you come across information that it feels a bit hidden, maybe.
Yeah, like it's operating just outside the usual channels.
Exactly. And today we're diving into precisely that kind of material. We've got this audio source you shared full of some, let's say, intriguing and sometimes pretty unusual claims.
Hmm.
So our mission today is really just to unpack it all, see what's there, what the key points are.
Shining a light maybe on some less discussed topics. It's quite a mix.
It really is. We're talking about things like electromagnetic pulse weapons, this Champo project.
Right, and then these giant spider sculptures. That one definitely caught my eye.
Yeah, that too. And then the search for alien life by some big names, plus some questions about photos of Earth.
And finally, the idea of robot armies controlled by humans and monkeys.
Okay, quite the list. Let's start with the EMP weapons, electromagnetic pulse. The audio suggests, well, the possibility of the U.S. getting hit by one.
And it describes it as this sort of side effect of a nuclear detonation.
Yeah.
Not the blast itself, but this invisible wave that just fries electronics.
Yeah, wipes out the grid, computers, everything electronic over a huge area, like plunging things into darkness, as the source puts it.
But then the audio shifts a bit, right? It introduces this non-nuclear idea.
Champika, yeah.
Uh,
Counter Electronics High-Powered Microwave Advanced Missile Project, developed by Boeing and Raytheon, according to the source.
So this isn't the big indiscriminate pulse from a nuke. It's more focused.
Exactly. It apparently uses microwaves, really concentrated bursts, to disable specific electronic targets. Think frying the circuits in one particular building.
Right. Not taking out a whole city's power grid, but maybe just the military command center's computers.
Precisely. That's the key difference the audio highlights. A nuclear EMP is, well, it's a sledgehammer.
Whereas Champy is presented as more of a scalpel. You could theoretically use it multiple times, hitting different targets selectively.
Like the audio suggested, maybe disabling enemy radar without, affecting nearby civilian stuff like hospitals.
Those microwave bursts just overload the sensitive bits inside the equipment.
And the audio mentioned a specific event, a test flight, 2012 Utah.
Ah, yes, where a single Champ-P missile apparently managed to disable 7 different targets in one go.
If that's accurate, well, that's pretty remarkable precision and power.
It is, and the speaker in the audio really leans into the implications, doesn't it?
Yeah, the idea that something like Champ-P could be used covertly.
And the effects could maybe be blamed on something else, a solar flare maybe, or another group entirely. Add a whole layer of complexity.
Definitely something to think about. Okay, let's shift gears. This next one is, well, it's visually striking. Giant spider sculptures.
Huge ones. The audio says up to 30 feet high, 36 feet wide.
And there's this theory mentioned connecting them to a potential nuclear payload and Israel.
Yeah, that part sounds pretty speculative. And the speaker in the audio actually acknowledges that. They say they're looking into it, don't know if it's real.
Right, but they still find the presence of these big sculptures all over the country, as they put it, to be a great question. There's a definite unease there.
You can hear it. The idea that these huge, maybe slightly menacing sculptures could be widespread, potentially hiding something, it clearly bothers the speaker.
And they seem surprised it's not, bigger news. If these things are everywhere, why aren't more people talking about them?
It really shows how these kinds of alternative narratives can take hold. Questions arise about what's visible versus what might be hidden.
Okay, moving from giant spiders to outer space. Claim number 3 involves some very big names.
Right. Mark Zuckerberg, Yuri Milner, and Stephen Hawking. The audio claims they're spending $100 billion searching for aliens.
Specifically around Proxima b, the nearest star system.
And the speaker in the audio sounds, well, pretty skeptical about the whole thing.
Yeah, a couple of reasons. First, why Proxima b? Why not focus more on, say, the moon, which is right here?
That's one point. And the other ties into something maybe even more fundamental for the speaker, the pictures we see of Earth itself.
Ah, right. The audio brings up Yuri Milner's breakthrough initiatives, which did involve Hawking and aimed at interstellar exploration and SETI. The 100 billion figure seems high, but the core idea of private funding for this exists.
But the speaker's main hang-up seems to be with NASA's Earth photos. They call them artist conceptions.
Suggesting they aren't real photographs, and the speaker finds this weird, right? Especially when high-altitude balloons can apparently take crystal clear pictures of the Earth's curvature.
That's the inconsistency they point to. Why can a balloon get these clear shots, but satellites, which are supposed to be way more advanced, produce images that sometimes look, to the speaker at least, like composites or illustrations?
It's a fascinating question about how we represent our planet visually from space. Different techniques, data merging. It can get complex.
But for the speaker, it feels like a discrepancy that isn't getting enough attention. Again, that theme of why isn't this being talked about more?
Okay, and the final claim. This one sounds like pure science fiction.
Robot armies
Yeah.
controlled by humans and monkeys.
Yeah, the audio attributes this vision to Geordie Rose, though it calls him George Rose, the co-founder of D-Wave quantum computing.
And the description is just, wow. Chimpanzees in robotic suits.
With wheels, bionic arms, watching live streams.
And using AI to train and command armies of robots. I mean, it's quite a picture.
It really is. And maybe unsettling for some.
Absolutely. And the speaker presents this not just as a wild idea, but as something potentially real, something that should be getting news coverage.
It feels like the speaker sees this as a possible future, maybe even an inevitable one that's just not on white people's radar.
Which loops back again to that central idea in the audio, this feeling that important, maybe world-changing information is flying under the radar.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've certainly covered some ground. From EMP weapons, both nuclear and the more targeted champy.
To those enormous spider sculptures and the theories around them.
Then the privately funded search for aliens, tied up with skepticism about Earth imagery.
And finishing with that vision of, well, human and even animal-controlled robot armies.
It's definitely a collection of topics you don't usually find bundled together in the mainstream news cycle.
No, it aligns perfectly with that initial idea of digging into less reported, maybe more fringe information, based purely on what was in that audio clip.
And it's important, like we said, to remember we've just been exploring the claims as presented in that source material you provided. Our goal was to unpack that perspective.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener. In this flood of information we all live in, what makes some ideas break through and become widely discussed?
Yeah, and why do other claims, like some of the ones we've touched on today, stay more on the fringes?
What shapes those narratives? How do we decide what's credible? It's definitely something worth thinking about as you navigate your own sources of information.